And welcome to the Glacially Musical Podcast. It is beer, metal, and swearing. If you are here to discuss some great Kiss records, we'll see. We will be discussing some Kiss records. I, of course, am Nick Cameron of Glacially Musical. And as everyone who's never listened to this does not know, this is the founding of two crews, the forging of two people. If I am the captain, then my first officer is Keefy Chakotay. How are we doing today, buddy?
I am well. Happy New Year to you and all our viewers and listeners.
Happy New Year, everyone. If I could just quickly go through the logistics. We also do have a guest this week, Danny Nichols of Torchlight Parade, Bekmork, 3/4 Francis, Rabbit Punch, and probably 17 other things he hasn't told me about yet. He is a gadfly. But here's how this goes. We greet, we beer, we vinyl, we shirt. We greeted, now I'm gonna vinyl, or I'm sorry, now I'm gonna beer. And before I do, I want to show off something. Dun, 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 dun. If you are on the video version of the podcast, what you are presently seeing is a Glacially Musical Pouredcast branded pint glass. And don't worry, Keefy, I got one for you.
That's really dope looking. It actually looks even, I don't know how, the logo looks even better on the glass than the
These are the
graphics.
prototypes in the new ones, in the ones that, because I'm gonna actually, if anybody wants one, I will sell them. But I'm gonna we're gonna do I forget what it's called, but we're gonna cut GMP into the record, so it's the GMP, obviously. My beer this week, because it is so much metal, I've got to go to the Elysian fields like Megadeth does with some space dust. I got a nice pint of the Space Dust Double IPA off of one of my favorite Megadeth records, Cryptic Writings, which I don't have on vinyl. Might have it on the box set though.
Are you sure that's not Euthanasia, Elysian Fields?
No, it
It's cryptic
probably is.
writings. I mean, could
Youth,
be. I don't.
but you know what makes more sense is I like Euthanasia way more than Cryptic Writings,
Oh,
so it
for sure. I
probably
mean, most
is.
people, most people.
All right,
That's
thinking people who aren't Hitler do.
okay.
Sorry, trying to do a Monty Python reference. I screwed it up. What you got for me today?
I don't. I have a very, as you can see in the frame, I have a Corona Extra, not a craft beer, but a case of them were left in my lobby after someone had a party, and I just collected the case of beers. So I've been drinking these Corona Extras. I toasted my New Year's with Corona. Corona Extra for those non-fancy beer drinkers.
Hey, there is nothing wrong with drinking swill. Swill has a place. Myself, I will say this loud, publicly, and thoroughly. I love Bush Bavarian Lager.
Fair enough. I will also say one other point to my beer, as I will in a minute cheers you with a sip from the can. But any excuse to make a Pink Floyd reference. So not only do I have Corona, but I have half a plate of slivered limes. You're welcome. And because Corona Extra and a lime is a thing, which I will add a lime to my glass. But anyway, cheers.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks for joining us this week.
Tastes like nothing.
Great. Yeah, it does. It tastes a lot like it tastes like nothing sweat.
Yeah.
It tastes like nothing after it had a long workout. But if you don't mind, I'm going to quickly vinyl check today. Not the biggest fan of this band in the world, am I? But who doesn't love some Queen? This is Queen self-titled. It is a bit of a beater copy. You can see the ring wear. We got some splitty business stuff in the back. No insert at all. Nada. But I got it for $7 at the record store. That would be at Circa Now Records on South Grand Avenue in my old neighborhood, which is near our librarium, which is a wonderful two-pronged approach. Hit the library and the record store in the same afternoon.
That sounds
What you got?
splendiferous. I wanna go to the librarian or whatever librarium.
The librarium.
Librarium. That sounds really cool. I have a record. I think I have vinyl checked it on a Ghost Cult show, but not on this show. You'll have to correct me, but it is back in the order of received. So I might have done this on a recent Ghost Cult show, but not ours. So this is the Christian metalcore band, the Gloom in the Corner, sent me this vinyl, which looks like a Kiss record, like modeled after a Kiss, like Destroyer by Kiss, except they are fighting for the Lord.
Oh, that's how you do it. Fight for
And
Jeebus.
it is a double vinyl of their recent release from this year. So it was really cool.
Very
They sent
cool.
it to me.
Very cool.
I'll just really quick, again, the entire thing is a cartoon. Here's the back, kind of shades of Preacher, the comic book and the TV series there with the Guardians of Light there, guarding the gates of heaven, perhaps. And then there's a big gateful here. They're fighting a lot of zombie monster demons. And then I'll just pull out one of these beauteous vinyl here. Paper with the Mylar already in. And we've got a colored vinyl here. I pulled outside the C and D, but look at this guy.
Oh,
Another
that is a gorgeous vinyl.
Caramel and candy apple kind of, right? That's what I'm going to call it, because food
looks like a strawberry smoothie.
A little bit, yeah, right? So that's pretty neat. So you can see the reflection of my rope light in the background that normally you see from a different angle. But thank you. Gloom in the Corner is actually a pretty good record, and I appreciate the free vinyl always.
I believe, as we all do. And by the way, just look at me. Everyone look at me.
Branding on point. Nick is pointing to the glass, everybody.
We have merch. I mean, so far it's just me that has it, but I mean, I'm on YouTube, so I'm basically a grade A celebrity. Mostly in this room, but let's see. We got vinyl check, beer check, shirt check, rocking my master, vindictive miscreant shirt, which is appropriate since we did do a little bit of master discussion on the episode that ran last week. As I listened back, as I always do, because I'm an excessively terrible perfectionist. I'm really bad at being a perfectionist.
I'm worse than you. So just let's freeball this for a second. How did you feel about that episode that we recorded like 2 months ago and just ran?
I had completely forgotten who was on the Mount Rushmore. So I was waiting to get to that. I couldn't remember. I thought Carcass was on it, which they're not.
No, Carcass is on it. It's
Is
Carcass.
it?
Yeah, we
Okay,
didn't.
well,
I tried to let
Morbid
it.
Angel. Morbid Angel.
Yeah, I mean, again, we picked. It's a brutal concept. It's going to be worse in the future. Old school death metal is just very stacked at the beginning.
Yep, that is actually true.
Very few genres can say like the first 10 or 12 bands in the genre are all awesome. Very few.
Absolutely correct. It is, you look at it didn't take very long for old school death metal to coalesce into a genre. Once you had Master and Death and Cannibal Corpse going, this is the template, this is what it is, this is how we do. And everybody just really glommed onto that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing right with that. It's simply a thing that happened in this modern world.
Let us quickly hit the news before we welcome our guest in and get to the meat of the matter.
I have one piece of Kiss-related news that I will throw out. We are now celebrating the 2-year anniversary of Kiss's quote-unquote record-breaking live stream in Dubai, where they changed their lyrics to meet with local censors. And they did several VIP packages, several merch options, including the title of the show was Kiss 2020 Goodbye. As you may recall, in 2020, we were all really in a horrible, horrible place, a much worse place than we are now. Thankfully, things have opened up, medical science, blah, 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 whatever. However, the bad news is so far, no merch, no vinyl, no home videos, no nothing has come out. So there are people that paid $1,000 to see this with the promise of big cartons of, big treasure chests of merchandise. None of it I would want personally, but however, they paid for it and they still haven't gotten it. Doc McGee said on the cruise, it is not their fault. However, they will make it right. That was months ago. And Paul Stanley responded to a tweet of somebody asking about it, saying they will make it right. And the good news about that is this has been picked up by outlets like Ultimate Classic Rock. So ideally, the people that spent the money on that will now get what they paid for. Good luck, people.
Brutal. I have been very lucky in the handful of things that I have bought in the live stream era. I seem to have gotten them within what I will say is a fair and reasonable time frame, considering the global everything,
Right.
the global Michigas, if you will. And yeah, I feel bad for anybody that paid for a thing that didn't get it in over a year. That seems out of bounds. I understand about vinyl and certain things.
Well, at the time, vinyl was only 6 months out. Now it's a year out. So that's actually a big part of why it's so hard for me to get new vinyl nowadays. I'm just not buying it on the primary market anymore because I don't want to pre-order stuff that's not coming until 2024, and then by the time I'm ready to buy it, it's sold out. So, it is what it is. I'll get what I can get and call it a day.
Fair enough. I have two quick news items. One is going to be very fast, and one is going to be not so fast. But we'll do our best to stay within our time frame. I have about 3.5 minutes. So, good news, bad news. Good news: Metallica, because we always have to talk about Metallica.
The Metallica Minute.
The Metallica Minute, and it literally will be a minute. They had 1.6 billion streams on Spotify last year. I know Nichols is not a user or fan, but still an accolade, an accomplishment. 1.6 billion streams earned in a calendar year. Extremely high. That is not the total of Metallica streams because there are other platforms, but 1.6 on Spotify. And then
my child likes to routinely point out to me how bands I like aren't popular enough based on their Spotify streams. She has stopped trying that with Metallica.
Yeah, well, here you go. One more feather in your cap then against your child, which is they finally have their first billion level song. First song ever. Can you guess what it is?
Enter Sandman or Nothing
Of course
Else Matters.
Yeah, of course it is. It's Enter Sandman, past the billion mark. The next one up, next closest is Nothing Else Matters, very likely to get in next year. But yeah, past the billion, joins about 15 rock and metal bands with believe it or not, with a billion. Linkin Park, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses. So
if I could actually, so I'm assuming that is Metallica's biggest, obviously that's their biggest stream. I don't remember if we mentioned this during the Kiss episode, but their biggest streamed record or song on Spotify is I Was Made for Loving You.
I did.
Okay.
Really quick, because we don't want to dwell on this, but I feel like it's not being talked about at all. And I can't not talk about this, and I am sorry in advance. So I don't know if you saw the news. It's really not being well covered. Rolling Stone broke a story that Steven Tyler is being sued in Los Angeles in a civil lawsuit. I was corrected on Twitter and called a little jump the gunny on my news story. I didn't say anything unfactual, but Steven Tyler is being sued in a civil law case over a relationship he had when he was 25 with a 16-year-old girl in 1976. I understand in 1976 this was permissible. There was a lot of other things about this relationship that are very, very sketchy and unfortunate now. He has not made a statement. The band has not made a statement, but you can already see sponsors are pulling away from them. Things that they had planned are being canceled. Their ride at Disney was shut down completely with no announcement, just no fanfare, shut down and discontinued. So this is very bad. And I understand that there's a lot of people who don't like cancel culture. I like to call it accountability culture, to quote Alex Winter from Bill and Ted and the Lost Boys and stuff.
From St. Louis.
Yep, he's great. I love that guy. And but yeah, it's like I said, on one hand, we can't judge people against today's mores for stuff they did 45, 50 years ago. However, I was unaware, I read voraciously all these rock and metal memoirs, but actually Stevens is one of the few I didn't bother. And apparently I read
Aerosmith.
Yeah, so his personal book. His personal book apparently details this relationship so much, the victim felt triggered by the book. Like, he was so casual in the book accounting about her without her name, but everything else. Anyone who knew her knew it was her. And it just kind of reactivated in her mind how wrong this was. And she did not pursue, obviously, again, back in the day, it was considered, okay. He had a romantic relationship when he was 25 with a 16-year-old in 1976. today that's horrifying. Back then it was actually commonplace, but that doesn't, I'm not excusing Steven at all. I think this is terrible, and some of the stuff that's come out is terrible. So I just wanted to say I'm disappointed with a lot of the media, and I didn't do it for clicks. I don't care. I just had like my biggest traffic year ever. I just had my biggest traffic month ever. So I don't care about the clicks. And I write about Aerosmith. I like, again, we had talked about them not too long ago on the pod. I thought maybe we would do a run at some point. Now I have no interest. But
Yeah.
you know, it's just unfortunate that he was very, just like, again, why didn't he, like, I'm not, again, no excuses. He discusses, there's some terrible stuff coming in. And you know, without going on and on, I just want to say, like, why was he so cavalier in his book to talk about this thing that was 40 something years old? So, like, you know,
I would make the argument that back 40 years ago, and actually almost 50 years ago now, that was not, you're right. It was not just commonplace. It was accepted. And especially, you know, basically you had to be over 30 before, if the kid could drive, unless you were over 30, that was normal. And ask Ted Nugent, ask Jerry Lee Lewis,
Jimmy Page, David Bowie. Yeah, I'm the person that always is like the first person to bring up Nugent in this case. But Steven, this is it's patently terrible, patently terrible, and it's going to compact the rest of their career for sure. Like, even if he settles, it's not going to go away. I'm disappointed the rest of the media has it. Loudwire covered it, Rolling Stone covered it, Ghost Cult. I'm not kidding. The whole world not really talking about this. So I understand it's just a civil case. He doesn't face any legal repercussions at this point.
The statute of limitations would be up. But if you don't mind, let's shut down the gross. And well, I am the host, so we can't bring in the host.
The guest co-host.
The ghost. Oh crap! Bring in Danny.
Do we pause and bring him in, or do we just bring him in?
Pause and bring him in.
All right, cool.
And we are now joined by a musical chameleon, a man of such virtuous integrity, a man who has never been shy to drive me home when I've had too much to drink at a show we have both been to, a man whom I met at a King Diamond show, who who's put out 3 records in the past year, who kicks ass every single day. My good friend, Danny Nichols. How are we doing today, Danny?
Good. When I heard the introduction, I thought you were talking about Keefy, though. So
no, Keefy's introductions are way shorter.
Yes.
I deserve nothing.
and always involve a pun.
Indeed. Welcome back. Welcome back to
the show.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be here.
Are you the first repeat guest, Nick?
No, you are.
I mean, I'm the co-host now.
But you weren't then.
But yeah, but like that doesn't count. I mean, I'm the co-host. I became by default.
Sure, I am. I've actually listened to every single episode, and I don't remember hearing anybody twice. So,
man, I appreciate Danny so much. He will pump the crap out of your tires.
I'm telling you. And an awesome shirt of the sword. I'm wearing my goat horse shirt that we did not check earlier, but
just for the record, I did shirt check, and I asked you to shirt check, and then you went on the tangent about the episode. So you blame me.
I'm a tangenter.
That's tangential. I'm sorry. We're off the rails. Amtrak. Let's get on the rails. So what do you want to talk about, Danny? Talk about you. You have 2 minutes and 38 seconds. I will
2 minutes and 38 seconds. Okay, right on.
Do it Japanese. Use no more, use no less. Hit it right on the dot.
So let's see. We released Torchlight Parade released an album this year. Never Laugh When a Hearse Goes By.
Love that, by the way. Thank you for the CD.
I appreciate you saying that. It was really neat because we had Teddy Andreadis on keyboards for the album. Teddy used to play for Guns N' Roses, and he used to play for Alice Cooper. And it is mind-boggling to me that he is helping us and playing on our albums now too. And we have a couple of cool things in store maybe for the next album too. I don't know if I should say about them or not, because these things tend to fall through, but we might be getting a couple of cool guest musicians on the next album too, but we're working on some stuff. So
is one of them Ace Frehley? I bet you could get him for $50.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, if it was $50, I'm sure we would manage that. So, and yeah, I don't know how this works, but Teddy's touring with a couple of different bands with some notable guitar guys in it. So we're trying to work some stuff to maybe throw a couple of guest solos on there. So we'll see how that goes. But we're very early in the process of the third album, so having just finished the second one. So, and we're
Love the
rehearsing-
hat, by the way, the City SC hat, or as
could
I'm
not be
calling
more
them,
excited.
the St. Louis Cobra Commanders, because the name of the team, St. Louis City SC. It's just
It ends in a lot of S's and soft C's for sure.
yeah, it's the Cobra Commanders. I'm gonna make it stick. I'm gonna make it stick.
Well, there's already a team called the Commanders now, which happens to be my favorite football team, even though they never win. So,
No, this is the St. Louis Cobra Commanders.
okay.
So
I won't hold that against you being a Redskins fan. Oh, sorry, Washington Commanders. Redskins is out. I'm a Giants fan, lifelong Giants football fan.
I know
I'm
it's
a
such
Battlehawks
a
fan and season ticket holder, sir.
I don't know
it's
what
such
that
a
is.
shame because I'm a New York fanboy and I grew up for some reason rooting for a lot of the New York teams, but I've noticed that they somehow happen to be the opposite of the ones that you root for. So
Ha-ha. Are you
when
a
I
Mets
was
fan?
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm a hardcore Mets fan.
Like
So
86
that's
Mets did it for you, and then you never looked
No,
back.
Absolutely.
no, it's even before that. What I love about Danny and his Mets fandom is it's completely ridiculous. It's based on the whims of a 7-year-old.
right. Yeah,
And I
this
appreciate
is
that's what
actually
I
the truth.
appreciate about you.
So in 1983, the Cardinals traded my favorite player to the Mets, Keith Hernandez, and I just thought that meant I was supposed to jump ship. It turned out to be a horrible mistake that has caused me nothing but pain and suffering in my life. But I've been a Mets fan ever since. Same way with Washington, is my cousin, for whatever reason, was a fan. They had cool uniforms. They went to the Super Bowl in 1983, also when I was like 6 years old. And then, St. Louis kind of has a history of struggling to hold on to NFL teams. So I've just kind of stuck with them all the way through. So, and I like the Islanders, and I know you like the Rangers. So it's like, it's unbelievable. We're natural enemies by complete chance.
But
I,
still, you're a sweetheart, so it's okay.
I will say
We got cool t-shirts together. So
I completely get Danny's, childish childhood nostalgia fandom. We're driving home the other day and I'm like, oh, Arsenal won. And Arsenal obviously plays in North London, 6,000 miles to the east. And their owner notwithstanding, I was a fan before he was the owner. So fuck Stan Kroenke. Fuck him up his stupid ass. Every
Here.
day. Finger fudge that son bitch. Cannot wait for SC to beat Colorado Rapids, because fuck those guys. Anyway,
For
so
sure.
she looks at me and she goes, Dad, why do you like Arsenal so much? And then I had to tell the embarrassing story, which I'll tell you now, because how does one pick a soccer team out of all the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of teams? Well, as many people know, I'm a big Sega fanboy, or at least was at the time. So I'm Googling Sega Dreamcast soccer, looking for a Sega Dreamcast soccer game. Looking for UEFA. I knew of UEFA Champions Cup on European release, and I got a mod chip in my Dreamcast, so I can play it. I'm awesome. But what I came across was a Arsenal jersey, one that said Sega, and the home kit that said Dreamcast, and I went, "That's my fucking team." And you know what? You gotta.
I randomly picked Chelsea just because they were in town the time I was in London and I saw them play, and it turned out to be a good choice because they.
Yeah, you want to talk about a team that causes you pain and suffering? Arsenal is just good enough always to make you think they got it.
Chelsea's kind of made up for all of my American teams, which are always bad. But
By the way, did you see
the
this?
universe owed me one? Oh, nice! There's glacially musical glasses now. Oh
Yep,
my gosh! I hope those are available for purchase.
Oh my God! Look at this guy. He's just setting it up. Yes, they will be available for purchase.
Oh my gosh!
I'll probably just give you one.
I am
But
not a
that's besides the
soccer
point.
fan, but if I was, I would root for Wolverhampton because that's Pink Floyd's band. That's Pink
No, it
Floyd's
isn't.
team.
Rogers is Arsenal.
I don't care
Well,
about Rodgers.
and
Not in Pink Floyd. I don't care about him.
Oh, harshness. Anyway, all right, gentlemen.
Steve Harris would be West Ham though, so you'd
That's
have to root
true.
for West Ham. So
All right, if you don't mind, let's get off the English Premier League and how great Arsenal is. Who's going to win the league?
the
But
Blues.
fuck those guys. Let's talk about Kiss. So where we last left off was Kiss coming off their biggest hit, their most divisive single. And I say divisive, but that's not even true, because basically all of their fans that would have hated it had already jumped off the wagon by then. Kiss is, for lack of a better term, they are a top 40 wannabe band. They are a band always chasing that high, that hit, that top 10 hit. And they get it with their disco song. So their disco song creates their biggest hit, which then engenders them to go on their least successful tour to date. So if you're Kiss and you're sitting down, you are dealing with Peter Criss, who is quit fired, depending upon whom you ask. It's the Vince Neil situation. They say they fired him. He says he played on poorly on purpose to quit. I don't know. I will say that, in Peter's autobiography, he was very, very honest, and he basically confirmed every terrible thing any other person in the band said about him in that book. So you know what? I'm going to give him this one. I'm going to give it to him. So Peter quits after it's recorded. Anton Fig, once again, is the drummer. And when we get to one of Ace's tracks, it is very obvious Peter is not playing, and this is the one time I'm going to comment on the drums that significantly. Believe there was one song he played on, don't know what it is, do not care. So you're sitting around the table and you're thinking to yourself, well, we had a big hit with disco. We had a shit tour with disco. What should we do? Gentlemen, what should they have done at this point?
Well, continue chasing trends is what they did do.
No. What should
because
they
it worked
do?
so well the first time, but
So what you're saying is they should go even poppier, even softer, and sing
if
about.
I'm in charge of
more
Kiss,
bubblegum.
they get back to being heavy again. So if I'm Kiss, Creatures of the Night's the next album.
So
But
not
that's what I would have
Sugar
wanted.
Sugar by the Archies, because basically that's what we have. Unmasked is Sugar Sugar by the Archies, and there are a lot of Europeans and Australians who will tell you this album is amazing. You'll get my opinion momentarily.
I do like some of the songs on it.
I don't.
But
I guess you just got my opinion.
There you go. Spoiler.
Okay. Shall we do anything, Keefy, on this one?
I mean, they did seem to. It's wild to me. They made a lot of good moves in the 70s. And even like I said, objectively, I hate Dynasty and I hate I Was Made for Loving You, but it was absolutely a smart move because it is an eternal song for them and a huge hit everywhere in the world, but in my heart. And they did.
I love it because it's so terrible.
No, that's not acceptable. I respect it more now, but I still don't like the song. I'll say that. I will begrudgingly, but it does seem strange to me that the band that was so calculated and smart for so much of their career, as you have listened to the pods, Danny, they lucked into a lot of this shit, but they'll tell you it was by design. They could not possibly claim the next few years we're about to cover were by design, because it is like mistake after mistake.
Nothing they've ever done is by design. That is part of their mythology. They are the luckiest four sons of bitches ever to walk face of the earth. Nothing they did on purpose worked. And everything they did on accident was great.
I will say, and one time Nick and I had a conversation in the car, and I asked him what he thought the best band was and what he thought the most interesting band was. And we didn't agree on the best band, but we both agreed that Kiss is probably the most interesting band. And they wouldn't be the most interesting band if they didn't continuously blunder and give us such a wide range of things to talk about. It's just seems like there's no bottom to the pool of things to discuss about Kiss. And it's almost with me, and it hasn't always been this way. Because, like, for example, when I saw Kiss on the reunion tour, like, I sat down during I Was Made for Loving You because I was angry that song existed. But
that was the Lost Cities tour, the Lost Cities leg. St. Louis is the only city on the main tour that also got a Lost Cities show,
which was great because I didn't go the first time they came to town.
I went the first time
because I had no money.
They were much better the second time.
So I was too broke to go the first time, and the second time I realized the error of my ways and got unbroke enough to go. And I'm very grateful for it because that was the only time I've ever seen the four originals. But Kiss is almost, almost like the Star Wars of rock bands, where at their best, they're so darn cool that I find a way to like all of it a little bit, even the stuff that's bad, with a couple of notable exceptions.
Objectively bad.
Like Shandy to me is one of the worst songs ever. A World Without
Install,
Heroes
I have
is
a
the worst song ever.
Hang on. No.
I'm jumping ahead, but for the most part, like as I get older, I find a way to enjoy even the Kiss songs that I didn't used to like because they weren't heavy enough. So,
well, that's part of the myth. Kiss is not heavy. They look heavy. In our brain, we see them in the makeup. In our brain, we see the big shoes. We see the spikes. We see the leathers. Pleather, I guess, nowadays. And in our brain, we see, oh, that's Euronymous. That's Mayhem. That's King Diamond. That's evil. No, it's a dude singing about how his lady doesn't like him because he doesn't drive enough fast cars.
yeah, and I mean, not compared to Mayhem or Metallica or anything like that. Of course, they're not heavy, but I think they got some pretty good riffage going on. I was actually listening to All Hell's Breaking Loose just the other night, and nobody would ever think of that as being like a heavy area of Kiss. And I'm like, man, this is actually a pretty rocking riff.
We're not talking about that, are we?
No, we're not. That's not one of the albums, but that just came on the radio while I was thinking about this and thinking about
All Hell's Breaking Loose was played on the radio.
On XM radio, yeah, on
XM
Ozzy's Boneyard.
Okay.
Yeah, not
I just want to jump in and say that Vinnie Vincent is the Jar Jar Binks of Kiss, and I'll say nothing else except that's a great point about Star Wars and Kiss.
No, Danny completely nails it, and that's absolutely true. They have the same 70s kitsch. They have the same 70s cool. They have the same 70s vibe. They have the same 70s collectability. Unfortunately, Kiss and Star Wars fucked up collectability for everything else in the world, because now we all think everything is collectible and everybody buys 3 or 4 copies of every goddamn thing they own, which makes it hard for me to... Right, nothing's worth anything, and it makes it hard for me to buy a goddamn record to spin it. Anyway, so let's talk about Unmasked now that I have calmed and not angry about anything. Let's start off. If you don't mind, I will moderate. Is that you? I'm going to give everything a scale of 1 to 10. This is a 3. Could be worse.
So I actually scored every song on all of these albums and then came up with an overall album score. So I'm ready to go with albums.
That's how Danny does it.
Don't judge me based upon my initial score. I
judge you based on the years we've spent together. We're fine.
There you go. That's fair too. But I actually love this song and I gave it a 9.
What the fuck?
I wish it wasn't at the beginning because I've like lost all your guys' respect right out of the chute. But
you know what? Maybe I spoke way early, 38 seconds ago. Jesus fucking Christ.
There you go. I do love this song. It is only one of 3 songs on the whole album that I gave a high score to. So, but I do like this song, and I know it's not even written by anybody in Kiss.
How many of
it does have a very pop sensibility to it, but
oh god, okay.
I don't know. I love the song.
Danny,
I take the reputation hit.
You know what, Danny? You were at my Grey Cup party. And you stayed for the whole game, so I'm gonna let this go.
I don't have enough alcohol for this right now. I already
drank
most of my beer, but I think I just dislocated a rib laughing so hard.
All right, let's move on to Shandy.
Yeah, I have no notes. 3. If you want, Nick, if you want to mention when there's a notable co-writer on the song, good or bad, you do that.
Hang on.
So we don't give credit.
This one was written by somebody named McMahon, and I don't know who that is.
Vince?
I don't as far as I know, he doesn't appear on any other song. But
yeah, Gerard McMahon, no idea who that is.
I don't know who he is either, but boy, did he hit gold.
All right, y'all, you know what? I'll give you that. Maybe I'm wrong on 3, but 9, Jesus Christ. That's like Deuce territory. God damn it. Anyway, so Shandy, before I get broken, co-written by Vinnie Poncia, who we did not mention has come back as producer, which is still the greatest Kiss irony in the world to me. But so interesting to note, only one member of Kiss played on this song. Paul did, because there's no solo. Paul did the rhythm, Paul did the bass. Anton Fig, who was in Kiss for about 97 minutes until Gene and Paul realized that Anton was Ace's friend. So they said, no, we're not doing that after all. Played the drums. You know what? It's a really terrible cheese ballad. This is like the Parmesan my child was eating with a fork yesterday. But you know what? I kind of love it a little. Got some neat guitar effects to it, and Kiss is not a band that ever really used guitar effects. They just played through straight into their amp, turned on 10. So I do appreciate that. And Kiss is also a band that very rarely did any sonic changes to their sound, period. They rarely had clean. They rarely had acoustic. They had 12-string once years before this. So having that change is nice. However, the song is still terrible. This also involves the last appearance by Peter Criss as a member of Kiss in the video for Shandy, which mimicked the Unmasked album cover, which, let me say, them saying we're unmasked and then they're not. That's stupid. So, Danny?
So for Shandy, I gave it a 1 because I think this is either the worst or the second worst Kiss song ever. To me, it's like an adult contemporary song.
It wishes it was.
Right. And a few years ago, I was in Alaska and I walked into a gift shop in Ketchikan and Playing Overhead was Shandy. So I guess this song is still huge in Alaska. I don't know. But I think this song was just a mistake from
what's
the
also
get-go.
huge
And
in Alaska?
I really dislike this song. So,
here's something else that's huge in Alaska: being paid to live there. If you live there, they pay you to be there.
I would not want to live in Alaska. I was there in July. That's the good time to be there. But yeah, no, so I'm not a fan of this song. It was very much trying to chase some sort of an adult contemporary hit sort of thing. And it is my least favorite Kiss song of all time. Second least favorite Kiss song of all time.
Yacht Rock was getting big around this time. Rod Stewart at this point in time, Barry Manilow at this time are starting to blow up, and they had chased the Rod Stewart wagon before, and now they're just really finger fudging it and just like, we're part of this, we're part of it. You're not.
I have very little to add to this except to say I love the Midwestern accent. Being hey, forget about it, from New York. I've always said shandy, like a shanty, sea shanty. So I've always said shandy.
It's shandy.
It doesn't matter. But I would say, I'm in the middle of the two of you. It's not the worst thing I've ever heard. It's not the best. I appreciate them trying to do like a new wave yacht
I didn't
rock.
say it was the best. I mean, I don't know where you're.
No. Well, I mean, better than I would say.
Fair.
It's over time. It's not as horrible as I remember, but it's still not good. I do remember seeing the video on like Video Music Box on ABC at midnight as the first Kiss video I've ever seen.
It is a grower. However, it grows about as slow as a redwood.
Shit. It's like a glacier. It grows.
It still hasn't grown for me. So
okay. All right. Next, we're gonna move on to Jesus Christ. Naked City, written by Gene, Vinnie Ponce, Bob Kulick, and Pepe Castro. No idea on that one.
Pepe is a backup singer. She's on Dynasty.
Oh, it's a lady.
I believe it's a lady, and they allowed her to have like co-writes later on in her career where it's like a favor. She probably did like backup vocals on the cheap so they could give her a songwriting credit later and points.
I think Holly Knight did backing vocals or keyboards or something on this album too. I think I remember hearing that at one
Paul's
point.
girlfriend, by the way.
I will tell you, this particular song is so bad. It is so awful. Getting punched in the crotch might be preferable, especially if it's only a medium punch, because it'll last less time.
Well, having been punched in the crotch, I can say that I've
been hitting the crotch
better.
with hockey pucks.
Yes. I kind of almost regret I gave this one a 6, which is probably a little bit too high, but maybe that's just because it followed Shandy. I think I kind of
Tracking
dig the
matters.
guitar in it. I kind of dig the guitar in it. I don't think it's terrible. I think if you put this on, a live or something, it gets a 2. So I guess you're right. Tracking matters, but I gave it a 6, which is not too bad of a score. So
Midland, fair. What do you got, Keefy?
Not a whole lot. Not a great song.
All righty.
Not
Well,
a
then
great
let's just
song.
move on to well, if that was a dog turd sandwich, now we're gonna chase it down with a dog turd and tonic, which is What Makes the World Go Round, written by Paul and Vinny. Fuck this song, no notes.
What's odd about this is my copy of the album does not have this on. Oh yeah, it does.
I'm sorry, it has it on there. For a
Yeah, it
second, you got
does.
me really excited that you had a better version than me.
Yeah, okay. So I'm sorry. I just had the song titles out of order. So I apologize. Yeah, I did not care for the song either, and I gave it a 4. So
See, a
but
4 for Danny is like a negative 87 for a normal person.
well, what's funny too is when you mentioned about doing these albums, I thought that I liked Unmasked a lot more than I actually did on re-listening to it. And I think that's based on the strength of 2 songs, Is That You, that I like for whatever reason, and one other song that I absolutely love. And I think those 2 songs made me think I liked the whole thing a lot better than I did.
We skipped Talk to Me.
Okay.
Just gonna say one thing.
Hence the
at the
tracking order.
bridge, he asks, I've got a question for all the girls, blah, blah, blah. He never asks the goddamn question. So that song is not rateable because the narrative does not finish. So skipping.
Oh no, you can't do that to me. That's actually the song that I love. So Talk to Me is actually
What?
And again, I will lose your respect if I haven't already lost it. That is actually my favorite Kiss song of all time. And I don't know if this is a case
I
of
had no
somebody
idea Danny was Australian.
Well, what's funny is that the one time I met the one time I met Ace Frehley, I've never met Peter Criss. The one time I met Ace Frehley, I told him that Talk to Me was my favorite Kiss song. And he said it was a big hit in Australia. And that was the extent of my conversation with Ace Frehley. And I don't know if this is the case.
Than most people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I wouldn't say I've met Gene before and Ace. I wouldn't say either of them were overly friendly, but
oh god, Keefy's
I don't know
away
if this
tears. This is a good episode.
Yeah, but I don't know if this is the case of being such a Kiss fan that I couldn't pick anything as a favorite song that was a big hit. Like I had to pick something a little bit obscure to secretly prove.
I get you.
And it could be that it's on this album, but I really do love this song, and I gave it a perfect 10. And my second favorite song by Kiss ever is Rock Bottom. And I remember Keefy saying he did not like that song when you did the review.
I would rather hear Big Bottom.
Oh, I really like Rock Bottom too.
Would you rather hear Big Bottom or Rock Bottom?
Rock Bottom.
I'd rather hear Big Bottom because bum cakes.
So both these songs, Bun Cakes, My Girl's Got 'Em. This song and these 2 songs are really indicative of like the whole record experience for me. Completely. I weirdly, as much as I hate Dynasty, I will grudgingly acknowledge that it's a better record than I remember because I think I was so turned off I didn't give it any extra time. And unless it was played against my will, and like I said, it has been played against my will many times.
A lot of trauma, a lot of war trauma there.
These 2 songs, this whole album is worse than I remembered because I barely ever listened to it.
This is the worst Kiss record.
You're never gonna like fall out of favor with us, Danny. You've been such a good guest and such a fan of the show and a good friend to us. It's not about losing respect.
And then I gotta be honest. I mean, I'm not gonna blow smoke at you guys and pretend not to like something I like.
Yeah. My favorite Kiss song is "Come On and Love Me," and it always has been and always will be. And I specifically the live version is raging. I love it so much. These songs are like, again, they're just low to no effort. It's not about if you find it appealing, that's cool. It's catchy. I get it. Some of these things are competent musically. Paul is the best thing about this whole record. Like, let's just call it what it is.
God, Paul. That is unfortunate.
It is. He came to play. The songs are not there, but he personally showed up. Gene is not showing up. Ace is not on the record. You know what I'm saying? Ace is not on some of these records.
However,
It's
I will
rough.
say you're summing up before we're done.
Yeah.
You're chewing your food twice here. Let's flip the record to quite possibly the worst song Paul Stanley has ever written. And this is a man that did write Read My Body. And let's put the X in sex, and You Make Me, in brackets, rock hard. Tomorrow we can fall in love. This is probably the worst Kiss song of the original run. No, it's definitely that. It is however, in competition with Gene's magnum opuses, No, Secretly Cruel, and anything else he did on Animalize, for the worst Kiss song of all time.
Well, I gave it a 4, but it's not great. I would agree. It's not a great song, but man, it's hard to get past the tracking, because I did really feel that I was kind of judging these songs against the other songs on the album. And it's like, if you put any of these songs like on Creatures of the Night, which I think is a good album, or any of the albums that are really good, at that point, maybe Tomorrow doesn't even get to a 4. But yeah, there's songs that are worse on here than this, in my opinion.
I don't think so. But let's not to be mean, but let's just keep the train rolling. Let's keep this rig rolling here.
I'm gonna say there's nothing I could add to that. I don't like this song. It's not a good song, and I would never listen to it again if given my druthers.
Actually, I apologize now. 2 sides of the coin. Next track. That's the one where he wanted to ask the ladies, ask the girls, and he didn't. So this song is genuinely bad. I remember Gene saying the only good songs on Unmasked were Ace's songs. They were the only ones that had any edge, because he had edge. I don't know what Gene was listening to. These are crap. This is crap. Danny.
I wanted to like this song because it's Ace, even though I do acknowledge Ace is not a great songwriter, and certainly not a great lyricist at all. But I gave this one a 4, and maybe it gets extra points for it being Ace. And at this point, Ace was the only one that was injecting anything that was too rocking.
His songs are more lively. I will say that. They're not better, but they're more lively.
And that's what I want. I don't want Shandy or Shandy or whatever, but
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I would say this is probably the worst Ace song on any of the Kiss albums.
I gotta say, Save Your Love is a little worse, but I mean, it's just, I mean, you know, we're arguing.
What album is Save Your Love on?
It's the last song.
Oh, okay.
It's the first time Ace tries to
I guess
sing,
I've blocked it out of my memory.
He tried to sing whole notes, like 4 in a row. Save you. I mean, he sings worse than me.
So. I think Hard Times is a pretty bad song too.
I like Hard Times, but let's get off.
A lot of people do. Sorry,
we already did it. So
I have no notes. This song goes.
All right, She's So European. The Vinnie Poncia co-write. This is when we found out just how awful and just how down in the bucket, how deep the Gene Simmons barrel goes. Holy shit. Burn it.
I agree. I gave this a 2 only because I had other things I wanted to give 1s to. But this song is rough. This is a tough listen.
Yeah. Keefy.
What kind of depression is Gene Simmons going through post like Alive 2? Because like his contributions are exceedingly worse. This song is dreadful. These lyrics are terrible. It's terrible. Yeah. And he's in charge. So no one is being like, hey, Gene, because again, they went to Vinny. We made a big to-do about this last week, that like Vinny's the guy they could control. Even Eddie Kramer would have been like, no, not this is crap. You can't put this on a record. Like Bob obviously was the teacher they didn't want to, run afoul of. And Vinny is a guy they could control, even though he's Peter's guy. He kicked Peter off Dynasty. So like, yeah, the song is terrible in every possible imaginable way. And I don't understand why it even made it to the record. It's so bad.
It could be to your point that like everything they did just kind of had the Midas touch up to this point, that even when they messed up, it worked out great, that they just thought, we can mail it in, we can throw anything on there, and it's going to be a hit.
Or maybe they just thought we have no idea what to do and not knowing what to do before work. So let's just do what we think of. And then that's probably what we're supposed to do. And She's So European, which they never explain even what that means. I'm sorry, the narrative,
Sophisticated, I guess.
sophisticated,
Cultured. I don't
clearly
know.
he's never been to North London. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm going to get real angry real quick. So let's move on to Easy As It Seems with a Poncia co-write. And this song can go to hell. Done.
I give it a 2 again. Also agree. Don't like it.
Keefy,
In a word, abysmal.
fair enough. Let's get to the best song on the record, Torpedo Girl. Here's the track where you know it's not Peter Criss, because there's a blast beat on this. I mean, then Ace is playing funk, because you know what? If Ace can do anything, it's the funk boy. He's got that funk. You know, Parliament, label mates of Kiss, you know, you got the P-Funk, give up the funk, Ace tears the roof off the mother sucker. So take a trip on the mothership and fuck this song, really. I mean, it's fun, but you know what? It is what.
I like Torpedo Girl. I gave it a 9. Again, it gets high marks for being Ace on an album that has a lot of Paul and Gene ballady type things. So I mean, it's not the great. It's kind of like, I think about, I listen to a podcast too where they grade comic books, and sometimes like it'll get high marks for writing but low marks for art, or vice versa. And I think, well, maybe I've given this too high of a mark if I give it a 9 when it really just doesn't have very good lyrics. But I like the construction of the song. I like the riff. So I gave it a 9. I'll stick with it.
You know, no, I do love this song, but it's not great.
I'll jump in and say the music is a good song. Next to She's So European, this is like genius Led Zeppelin lyrics, right?
Oh yeah,
like,
I mean, and
this
and
is like
after
Zeppelin 4
Easy
next
As
to
It
She's So
Seems,
European.
Look at this. She's So European, Easy As It Seems, Torpedo Girl. Man, Torpedo Girl sounds like all of a sudden Kashmir.
And that might be it. Like after listening to those last two, I listened to this. I'm like, man, this thing's a 9. Like, so
All
it
right.
could be.
You know what? Let's finish this off, because with You're All That I Want, another Gene Simmons track, co-written by Poncia. Real quick, before I tell you how I feel about this song, which you might be able to take a wild guess, but there are no co-writes betwixt band members. Everything is either a solo write or co-written with Vinny. So that, and you know what, and that is what is the recipe for a shitty Kiss record, because it takes all of the members, doing a little bit of bacon on this, and they didn't bake it. They just, this song's terrible. No, I'm done. I want to be done with this record.
Yeah, I gave it a 5. So middle of the road. But I expect better than 5s out of Kiss.
How did Vinny Poncia work ever again after this record? Is amazing. But yeah.
What did he do after this record?
I mean, he launched his own other bands that he produced on the strength of Dynasty and this record somehow. And he co-wrote for a lot of other bands, which is like shocking. Just shocking. And artists, like famous artists, like Wild.
All righty.
I have no other notes. It's a pretty bad song. It's a pretty bad album. Nick giving me the high sign.
Oh my God. I wish Keefy had started recording a little bit quicker. We are now on the upward spiral for Kiss. They finally reached their pinnacle.
No.
I had a great double sigh, but when we were off mic, but whatevs. So do you want to do this the original, or do you want to do this 2014 style?
So first of all, did they tour at all with Unmasked? I don't think at all.
Yes, they did not tour in America.
Oh, they did one show in America to introduce
not a
Eric
real
Carr.
That doesn't count. Not a real show.
Yeah, just one show in New York at the Palladium, I think.
Yeah, man, that's one of NYU's school buildings now in New York City.
Yeah,
where the Palladium was.
No tour. They toured Europe with Iron Maiden, actually. They toured Australia, which was their biggest tour of Australia at that point. Also the only. But it went a little bit crazy.
Wait. So Iron Maiden on the album Iron Maiden
Yeah.
open for Kiss on Unmasked. Jesus Christ on a bicycle. What the?
I would imagine it was a lot like when Kiss opened up for Black Sabbath and Gene Simmons terrified Ozzy. I would imagine Paul Di'Anno terrified Gene.
Yeah.
Bringing it back. And by the way, if you haven't listened, go check out our Black Sabbath run, our Iron Maiden run. We did all the runs. All righty. So
next album's going to give me the runs.
Yeah. Yo.
Okay. Do we want to do the 2014 or the original?
The original. You scolded me about doing the redos. So let's do the original.
I'm going to let this go. So it starts off with the Casablanca. So I'm sorry. I'm ready to jump into these songs because I love them. But let's back up the truck. So they fail spectacularly. Even harder on because even in the 70s, even in the 60s, when you could make money selling records, legitimate money, not all, but still 70% of your money was on the road. That's where you sold seats. That's where you sold shirts. That's where you sold. So Kiss having a shitty tour in 79, leading into a no American tour of 80. And America's giant, if you can tour a 200-date tour, well, I mean, obviously they weren't doing that, but if you can do 100 dates in America, you're going to make a lot more money than 100 dates worldwide. Because we're so big, we got so many people, logistically it's easier. So you save money, there's a lot less cost. So for the first time, Kiss releases a record and cannot tour in America. So they tour Europe, they tour Australia. So after this failure, because no matter how many people in Japan show up, no matter how many people in Australia show up, it's not the same as doing San Francisco, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, Las Vegas, Seattle, Portland, Vancouver, Saskatoon, Edmonton, Calgary, Minnesota, and I'm not even into the Midwest yet. So what do you do? Oh my God, we have got to get back to who we are. Ace says, let's be rock. So they kind of do that a little. And Gene and Paul say, we need the doctor. We need to call the fixer. We need the wolf of cocaine. So what do? They bring him back. Bob goddamn Ezrin. What is the last thing Bob Ezrin has done at this point? The greatest concept record of all time, The Wall, and a lot of cocaine, probably with Roger. So, what happens if you're on a lot of cocaine?
You get a concept album that doesn't work and then has the songs released in the wrong order. So it works.
Okay, you jumped ahead. First off, you think all your ideas are the best ideas. Basically, you become me. And so Bob Ezrin on the cocaine says, you know what we need to do? A concept record. I'm going to posit this, throw it out there, not defend it. This is what Kiss always should have been. However, they weren't that. So you can't jump into that. It's a big change. So yes, so they come up with this concept record about good and evil with probably the worst narrative of any concept record I've ever heard. And which makes no sense. It's just basically, hi, I'm a boy. I'm a hero. Here's a boat. That's Morpheus. Who's that? Fuck's that guy? I don't know. Let's fight. Not yet. There's not even a fight in this story. So that's the best part. They don't even fight in the story. The fight's coming in the next album. However, this failed so hard, there was no next album. Spoiler alert. So they call Bob Ezrin back. He comes up with the concept album. Who creates the story? Gene Simmons, who is so deluded to believe there's going to be a movie. Gene Simmons, who writes the script. Gene Simmons, there is a script for the music from the Elder movie. Actually, it was the Elder movie.
They released a comic book a few years ago
yes.
that was and I don't know if it's based on the script or it's based on the songs. It doesn't, having read the comic, it didn't seem to have much to do with the songs. So
I did not
I
read
don't
the
know.
comic. I don't know. Tommy Thayer was in it. I was out. Peter and Eric Singer was in it as Peter Criss. I
It
mean,
almost seemed like it was a completely different story that they just branded as The Elder to get me to buy it so I could find out what this album was about.
well, you
But
know
I
what?
don't know.
They won.
Yeah, I bought you know, there's a
You
lot
were
of Kiss
always
comics
you were
that I've
always
bought.
gonna. I mean, you were always gonna buy it. I knew you.
Yeah, they didn't matter what they put on the cover. I was gonna buy it.
So let's talk about some tracks. We starts off with The Oath, arguably the best song. Great blast beat by Eric, poorly recorded by Bob Ezrin.
I like this song too. I gave it a 7. It's one of only 2 songs on the album I do like. I do think it's a pretty good song. It's a rocker. You can see where maybe this is the direction Ace wanted the band to go in with, you know, more of a rock and roll vibe to it, but it quickly goes off the rails from here.
Yeah,
I
next,
think.
Keefy.
Yes, I will jump in and say that yeah, the song is one of the better ones on the record, maybe top 2, top 3. And I don't know if we're going to get into this, but basically this is even the further fractioning of Ace, Gene, and
No,
Paul.
at this point it's over.
Well, no, but
a Gene and
because
Paul
so
world.
they recorded half
Oh,
of
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
record in Connecticut with Ace, and then they decided, oh, we need to work on more of the record in Toronto where Bob lives. And Ace was like, well, fuck this, I'm not going to go. And that was it. He was done with the record, basically. So a handful of songs got Ace on them, recorded in Connecticut, and then literally they spent double the amount of time with Bob working on more songs without Ace. So they excluded him for whatever reason. This is one of the better songs.
Well, they sent him the tapes. He recorded. He sent it back, but because he was not there, he was not a part of the editing process. So my favorite Kiss guitar solo is on this record. We'll get there. Guess who plays it? It's not Ace. Moving on to Fanfare, which okay, that never should have happened, regardless of anything.
Yeah, I gave it a 1.
Yeah, that's more than
Delete.
it deserves. Delete. Yeah,
0.
not helpful.
The fanfare, by the way, Gene Simmons, comes before everything. It's the overture, not the second thing.
That's because they changed the order. In the first song, he's taking the oath. We haven't even gotten to them asking about the oath. We'll get there. Patience. So next we move on to Just a Boy. Jesus goddamn tap dancing Christ on a pogo stick, eating crackers. Thoughts?
2.
All right. Keefy.
No good.
Terrible.
Yeah, but delicious. Next, we move on to Dark Light, the Lone Ace Frehley composition, written also by Anton Fig. I think Anton might have delivered some codeine cough syrup to Ace, and that was enough to get a co-write. Read Ace's book. I'm not speaking out of school. Also, Lou Reed and Gene Simmons. So, it took a lot of amazing human beings to come up with a song this bad.
I gave it a 5. I don't think it's a great song. I think it's mediocre, but a 5 is probably the highest rated Lou Reed song in my book ever. So,
oh Jesus, just dig the hole. Just let me just give you the shovel, buddy.
It's funny because listening to this album and not realizing that Lou Reed co-wrote some of these songs. My thought was the other day when I was looking at the liner notes that, man, I wish Lou Reed had just stayed away from my favorite bands. But we'll have to agree to disagree on
touching it. Okay.
I didn't even know I didn't like Lou Reed until I kept listening to the song and not liking them.
I'm a Lou Reed fan, and this sucks, and this is worse than Lulu, but that's not saying a lot.
You will not provoke me. We're on a time frame. Thoughts on Dark Light?
I gave them. It sucks.
Fair. Next, move on to Only You, Gene Simmons composition. Gene and Paul both sing it. Fairly forgettable.
I gave it a 2. I didn't like it.
Actually, would not be a terrible Kiss just song.
Yeah, I gave it a 2. I did not care for this song either. Too much production, not enough substance.
Keefy?
Boring.
Next, move on to the best song on the record, Under the Rose. I will take the oath. I will sacrifice. I will live my life. Da 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 da. Do do do. Under the Rose. Paul Stanley plays a masterful guitar solo, quite possibly the greatest guitar solo in Kiss.
Wasn't enough to save it for me. I gave it a 3. So I'll have to go back and re-listen to that guitar solo. Maybe I didn't hear it
It's
well
beautiful.
enough.
It is a simple, beautiful solo.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool solo. He's like skips the strings. It's cool.
Yeah,
Paul
yeah.
is very more talented than people give him credit for. This song is in the middle for me on the record. Definitely not a top tier song, but it's all right. It's not
Fair enough,
it's
fair
not the
enough.
worst in an album of turds.
Oh God, let's flip that shit. Moving on to the first instance of the giant fake plastic tear that I'm aware of. Gene Simmons is A World Without Heroes, co-written by Lou Reed and Bob Ezrin. Wow. If you ever thought to yourself, I need to come up with as many possible terrible cliches, here you go. This song is not helpful.
This is my contender for this is, in my opinion, the worst Kiss song of all time. And I would also submit it as maybe being the worst song of all time, in my opinion.
Great solo by Paul.
No, it's so over the top cheesy. And what have you done with my Kiss? Watching this video, and it's
all right.
Yeah.
Keefy.
It's hard because I love Lou and I want this to be great. And my memory of the hype and fanfare of like Lou Reed features on a few songs, not the ends don't justify the means. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really deliver. This wind is wild, by the way. I think my window's going to blow in on me. Go ahead.
Yeah, my brother-in-law is not going. He was supposed to go back today. He's not going back for a couple days. But next we move on to Mr. Blackwell, who I think is the villain, was named after a critic that Kiss genuinely did not like. And based on, if you're going to get revenge on a critic by name checking him, write a good song. Miss. Thoughts?
I gave it a 4. I also think this is not a very good song. Yeah, you might be right, but I'll go with it. I think Mr. Blackwell actually was a character in the comic book, and that might have been the only thing that survived from the album to the comic book. But not a good song. Same as Under the Rose. Too much high concept and not enough actual content.
Fair enough. Keefy?
Similar, I think they were thinking like, oh, this will be like a Death on Two Legs by Queen or something in that vein. And it definitely,
and to be Death on Two Legs, though, it's got to be good.
It definitely doesn't work.
Fair enough. Let's move on to Escape from the Island, another Ace Frehley co-write. Also, this isn't a Frehley Carr Ezrin joint.
Kind of a precursor to Car Jam 81, or what was the other name for it? An instrumental Breakout. That's was struggling.
Car Jam 90 or 85 or whatever. No, 90. It was 91. You're right. It was 90. That was written around this time. And yeah, this is not necessary. Had there been a movie? Maybe. But other than that, the best part of it is the horn, which is not a guitar, bass, drum, or vocal. So
I gave it a 5. I thought it was middle of the road. Not bad.
You know what? Mercifully short.
It's not that terrible a song, considering how terrible some of these songs are. And it kind of made me want more in this vein and made me think that more of the songs would be in this vein.
You know what?
If only they were.
The fact that you two are like lauding this middling, at best, instrumental, you have the Stockholm syndromes. So
it's also not on every version of the album. I don't know if you know that. Like it came out in some countries where this track is not on the album, and then was put back on later.
Yeah, those countries can go to hell. Let's move on to Odyssey, which is not written by anyone in Kiss. It is a cover of sorts. It is a wow. This is a song that says a lot of things that I just don't want to revisit. 2 out of 10. Next.
I gave it a 2 as well. Yeah, it's written by somebody named Tony Powers. Maybe I should know who that is, but I do not.
He should stop. He should stop.
Kiss, we
Yeah.
have no material or ideas. Bob, you got anything? Here's this cover song I like. Let's cover this song I like by somebody I produced before.
For your concept record. All right. Move on to I. You know what? Not a bad track. The video, however, is a little insulty to Ace. But you know what? Not a bad track. And this is evident that Ace is not there. As there's no solo, there is no lead, there is no melody to the music. It is all vocal melody. Another Gina Paul trade-off, which is my favorite. My favorite version of Kiss is the Gina Paul trade-off, and we haven't had that in many years at this point.
I think this song, I thought I was setting myself up for ridicule on this because I really like this song. This is like my Is That You of the Elder album. I know it's kind of got a pop sensibility to it, but it's really upbeat. It's fast. It's a rocker. It almost feels like this could have been on many Kiss albums, whereas everything else feels like they only would belong on the Elder.
There's a little bit on this record that would be on multiple records. Not many, but there's like
could
three
be
or four.
maybe Darklight. I don't know. Maybe The Oath. I don't know. But I gave I an 8. I don't know. I like this song. I think it's the best song on the album for me.
I also
Keefy?
like this. I like this song, and I want to jump in and say, like, we haven't really talked about Eric Carr at all, right? Eric Carr is at this point of like the most full member he's been. I think formally he is in the band at this point.
Yeah, he is a
Right.
member of the band,
and he really doesn't get enough credit that he basically, played on these ass songs, these asshole tracks that don't do him any
Right.
justice. But he played his ass off, and you do hear a notable that he is more like Anton Fig than Peter. And he's, you got to give a lot of
But
credit.
clearly
to Eric.
wasn't in position to be like, yeah, I know I'm new to the band, guys, but man, this thing is subpar. This
No.
isn't what I signed up for. But
Eric Carr actually was making frog croaking noises outside the vocal booth while Gene was singing World Without Heroes. Should point out, this is, I believe, the most co-writes Eric Carr has on any Kiss record. There's 2. So good for him. Good for him. But yes, Eric Carr is probably the MVP of this record. He actually adds a lot of life and breath into this. Final grades, I give this an A because I love shitty concept records unabashedly. But not when you tell me you're gonna make one. You got to drop it on me surprise style, which is weird.
I gave it I think my overall average score for this was a 3.6. So I don't know what that is. Probably a D.
That's an F.
Yeah. It saved only by I and The Oath. Other than that, I don't know. I think I've maybe only ever even listened to this 3 times. It's my least favorite Kiss record. And there's too many great records in the world to keep going back to this one.
Do either of you have an OG pressing of this? Because I don't, and I want one.
I have it on CD, so I don't have an OG pressing of almost anything on vinyl.
I have a 2014 pressing of it. I want a 1981 pressing.
I don't have this on vinyl or CD. I think my brother had it on vinyl. This record's an F. It's slightly better than Unmasked, but not by a lot. They're about equal.
No.
Unmasked is terrible too. I will say that when I went to the Kiss Museum in Vegas this summer, I knocked on the Elder door. I'll send a picture of me in front of the door.
Danny, here you go. He just called you out.
I know. Well, so I went to the Elder Door the last time I was in New York. What is legendarily supposed to be the Elder Door, but it isn't. It just looks very similar, and it wasn't too far from where Ace grew up. So I think, but it's a Methodist church. I want to say maybe on about 86th Avenue. Don't quote me on that street name, but there's a Methodist church, which is supposedly the Elder Door, and went and took my picture there knocking on that. So
okay,
I think it might have been the inspiration for the prop that they used.
I think it was probably St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is more midtown. But yeah, Ace is from the Bronx, where I'm from.
It wasn't St. Patrick's Cathedral.
There's also in Harlem, there's St. John the Divine, which is an enormous Gothic church, which would be an obvious call out. Like, that makes a lot of sense. I think the original door in the photograph is mocked up. It's not real, but the actual mock-up they used was at the Kiss Museum. But that's mad cool that you did that. There's a lot of, I'll save it for now, but you can go to, if you like Zeppelin, you can go to the physical graffiti buildings across the street and take the photo. And
whenever Danny goes on vacation, I get photos of him He sends me text messages of him at these famous places.
At these album cover sites. Yeah, I did the Beastie Boys, Paul's Boutique, and I did the Doors, Strange
And
Days.
Helvetica. I mean, he sends them all.
Yeah, Norway. But those are the ones I did in New York
Did you just say
anyway.
Helvetica? I'm gonna
yes.
cancel you off this show. Go ahead.
Creatures of the Goddamn Night. Let me start off with an unpopular opinion. This album is overrated. So here's what we got.
Well, let's see what happened after the Elder. So they put the Elder out.
I'm getting there.
Okay. Seemed like you jumped ahead.
I did. I happy Parlelages. Let me talk to the P&M. Sorry, Clockwork Orange. Anywho, so this album comes out. They have the list. Well, before that comes out, they have the listening party with Mercury, who Mercury now owns their contract. Mercury purchased the Casablanca record label. Neil Bogart is now free to snort all the cocaine with Bob Ezrin, should he desire, or whatever he wants to do. So,
and Bill passed away.
No. Bill
is that now?
No, God,
he passes away during this record, I think.
No, he's fired during this record.
Okay.
He passes away in like 97, 98.
Oh, okay. I maybe have that wrong then.
So they have the listening party with Mercury. It's just Gene and Paul because nobody else shows up. So they play it. They listen. Nobody says a goddamn thing. And Gene looks at Paul, and Paul looks at Gene, and they go, "We did it. We did it. We're going to get that critical acclaim that we don't want, that we say we don't want, that, my God, we want." And we'd lick the taint of Rolling Stone to get. We're going to get it now. We're going to get it. They did not get it. They do 3 tracks on Fridays. We learned very quickly Ace did not play on all the tracks, including The Oath. So if you watch Kissology Volume 2, all 3 tracks are played from Fridays, which is the SNL cover, the SNL knockoff. They couldn't even get on SNL to do this. And they don't play any classic tracks. They play 3 tracks off of Elder, which were The Oath, which was World Without Heroes, and I forget the third. It really doesn't matter. Nobody cared. Nobody liked it. So they go to book a tour. And no takers. So in 79, they have their least financially successful tour of all time. In 1980, it goes downhill and they can't tour in the States. And in 1981, they can tour precisely nowhere. So in 1981, Kiss has the exact same touring gravitas that I have today. That's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. So what do? Bob Ezrin did not save them. Vinnie Poncia did not save them. So let's call in Michael James Jackson. Maybe make that record Ace said he wanted to make 2 years ago that you didn't make. So now we go on to Creatures of the Night. And after the No tour, Ace gets really high on, frankly, narcotics. Getting high with Anton, getting high with his buddies. And this is around the same time his wife throws his 1959 Les Paul into the snow. And all kinds of great stuff going on in the Ace Frehley household. So when they reform to record Creatures of the Night, Ace Frehley does not show up. Ever. Believe he was there for some of the for like one demo session. And the rest of it, he's like, "No, I am done. You guys are terrible." However, there's a little record label contract snafu that Gene and Paul have discovered. The Hologram record label requires 3 original members. So they pretend Ace Frehley is on the record. Ace Frehley's face is on the cover. Quote unquote face. Ace Frehley's face is on the concert posters. Ace Frehley does a 2-week tour in Europe to promote the record. However, there is nothing Ace Frehley about this record. This is the closest Kiss ever becomes to legitimately heavy metal. I believe Keefy and I discussed this in the past. the John Bonham When the Levee Breaks drum sound. And everyone who listens to this knows I fucking hate the word iconic because it's overused and terrible. However, the When the Levee Breaks drum sound is an iconic drum sound, and so many people have fought their balls off to get this drum sound. No one has ever duplicated it besides the Beastie Boys on Licensed to Ill because they sampled it. However, in Kiss's attempt to replicate that drum sound, they created the Creatures of the Night drum sound, which some might argue is just as good. Eric Carr was in a pool with his giant Ludwig drum set, and it created a big, full, reverby drum sound. Anybody want to jump on that, or are you guys good?
You know, I like this album a lot. I think it's a real rocker. It's a
We're not
strange
there yet.
album.
We're not there yet.
Oh, okay.
Slow down. Slow down.
Yeah, ask the guy to go give his feelings, and then he gives them. You got to let him give them now.
Yeah. I thought we were at that point, but I was just gonna say that I didn't grow up with this album just because I just didn't have it as a kid.
It's
So
very
I don't have
forgotten.
a nostalgic attachment to it, but I still think it's really good. So I feel like if I had grown up with this, I would really love this album.
I'm gonna
I
stick
like
with,
it.
I'm gonna stick with overrated, and as we get to the track by track, you'll find out why. Keefy, any overarching Creatures of the Night thoughts that you just have to say?
After the nadir of Kiss the last 3 years,
That was Love Gun.
no.
We're 4 years past. We're
I'm
5 years
talking
past
about
that.
these records we've been discussing that are just turd after turd.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
And too late to get Ace involved,
Too late.
but at
He's done.
least they got back to their roots and even a little more. I think you have to also count the fact, again, Chasing the Trends, Motley Crue, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden,
Metallica.
except
No, Metallica's
before
not out yet. I
Metallica, just
apologize.
before
Yeah.
Metallica, but like heavy metal is now a thing, heavy rock is now a thing. Def Leppard's first couple of records are already out, but Crue in particular, I think when we go through these tracks, there's a definite, like, I hate to say it because Crue was inspired by Kiss. Sometimes art imitates life, and this is Kiss being, I think, surprised by Motley Crue and trying to copy Motley Crue a little bit.
There's a lot of that going forward in the next few years of the Kiss Camelot, as it were.
Maybe that's why I like it so much.
Fair enough. So if you guys are ready, let's jump on the track. Creatures of the Night, a goddamn plus. No notes.
I give it a perfect 10 as well. I think this is one of the best Kiss songs of all time, and listening to it again in the car this week, man, it just rips. I love it. I think it's a great song. A statement following the last two albums, and even Dynasty. Can Kiss still rock? Yes, they can. So I give it a 10.
Great drum line by Eric Carr. I should point out that sets the tone for the record. The big, because using, most drummers that have 8,700 toms in front of them don't use them. Eric Carr uses them. Keefy.
Agree. Same. No notes. Great lead track to an album. And I think beside Love Gun, their only other title track that's worth shit. Sorry, people who like Psycho Circus. That shit sucks.
That shit is tolerable. Moving on to Saint and Sinner. Gene Simmons at this point has been checked out of the songwriting game for 7 years. He wrote this.
I never really noticed that until I was listening to your guys' podcast and you said that. And I think there's a lot of truth to that it does feel like that the Gene songs got considerably weaker compared to Paul or Ace's. So I would agree. I gave this a 6 because I think it's anything on this album is going to get up almost that as a minimum because I love the production on it.
Great production.
But it's not that great of a song really. So I gave it a 6. So
fair enough.
I can't believe that Nick has yet to talk about his favorite member of Kiss ever, Vinnie Vincent.
Motherfucker.
More than Ace, Nick loves talking about Vinnie Vincent, dreaming about Vinnie Vincent, fantasizing about Vinnie Vincent.
Vinnie Vincent is
real quick. Keefy is 2 time
character.
zones away, and my fists are ready. I'm just here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, Keefy. I'm out of bubblegum because I didn't buy any.
Song 2 is a turd, but it definitely sucks. Sinner's terrible. Vinnie Vincent's on this album. There's a lot of weird guitar.
You know what?
Stuff
Vinnie Vincent, good on this record. This is the greatest moment of Vinnie Vincent's life. He's only on half the record, and it just he goes considerably downhill from here. Let us move on to the next song written by Stanley and some other rando. Keep Me Coming. Oh my God. No, burn it with fire. Danny?
I kind of regret my score on this because I made the mistake of looking at the lyric sheet right before we went on. But
oh yeah. Those lyrics are
I do like the song. I'm gonna go ahead and give it. I gave it an 8, but I give it an 8 with maybe some regret. So I've decided at the beginning I was just gonna stick to what I wrote down on here, regardless of any thoughts. But
you do you.
Yeah. So I like it. I think it's a good song. It just could, with better lyrics, it could have been a good song.
I'm going to come in and say the guitar riff to this song is really good and surprising.
Without the worst possible goddamn lyrics.
And really not good singing.
Lyrics. No.
Yeah,
correct.
I think Keefy kind of nailed it there. Like the riff really hit me good.
Especially
this is
riff.
Porno dialogue.
Yeah. Well, let me chime in and give my thought here. This is I thought a lot about this song, unfortunately. And even the very end with like
you
the
thought
Robert
a lot about it?
I really did. I had to, because like that guitar riff is delicious and then the rest of the song is awful.
Jeez.
Kicks, Kingdom Come, Great White, all these rip-off people who insult Whitesnake and call them, Zeppelin rip-offs. This is the most Led Zeppelin
it's
rip-off song ever done, not by Zeppelin or a Zeppelin clone. This is a terrible, like Paul really should have reined it the fuck back in. I understand that they feel like they're contemporaries of Led Zeppelin. Like, you're not. This is not good. It's not good. That riff is good though, but this song is terrible overall.
All right, that song sucks ass. Let's move on to a relatively good song written by Bryan Adams, Jim Valance. Does that have to do with the curly hair and the glasses? No, who cares?
I don't know.
Gene Simmons, Rock and Roll Hell, also covered by Ace Frehley on Origins. You know what? This is the best song Gene has written since really Hotter Than Hell. And my God, that is unfortunate. Thoughts? Danny?
I like this song. I think this is a good rocker too. I gave it an 8, and it's a solid 8 this time instead of a regrettable 8. But this is a good song. And again, I don't know. Yeah, I really dig the drum sound on this album. So it
helps.
It helps. That's my jam. Yeah.
Keefy.
Yeah, very solid song. I like it. Good writing, good production, good drums. Yeah. No arguments.
Solid 6.5, 7, maybe even an 8. Next, we move on to Danger. Fuck this song. Next.
I gave it a 7. I do agree it's a little bit of a drop down from the previous songs on this album, but not a bad song.
It's a drop down from a Gene Simmons tune when he's checked out. So,
is this the worst song on this album? That's my question.
No, wait, no. Keep me
I don't
coming.
think so.
Keep me coming. I will die.
My worst song is still to come.
Okay, this is my worst song on this record. Keep Me Coming is also equally terrible.
It is terrible.
But I will say this for Danger. Again, Danger is that Motley Crue thing. This is like the punk. Motley Crue likes punk, but they're not punks. Kiss likes Motley Crue, thinking they're punks, but they're not Motley Crue.
Fair enough. Let's flip the record, because we're doing the original version, not the 85 version, which is what I've got. And next we have the quintessential song of the 80s by Kiss with the drum sound. I love it loud. 10 out of 10. No notes.
I gave it a 9. I think this song is really great. This might be the only time you have ever given a higher score than me, and it was a 10 compared to a 9. So I tend to like things more than you, but I gave it a 9 only because I think Creatures of the Night is better, and I wanted to differentiate
Fair enough.
between
Fair enough.
the best and the almost as good. But as I recall, like I Love It Loud really had a resurgence like in the 90s.
They
when
did it for Monday Night Football.
And it started getting played on KSHE again. And I feel like I was in high school and you would start hearing the song a lot again. So this song kind of had a second life. At least
Funk
I
Junkie,
remember.
the one of the early new metal bands, Funk Junkies, covered it in like 94, 95 as well.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, this song, at least in St. Louis, it feels like to me had a second life in like the mid 90s.
Everything's got a
100
second life in St. Louis. I mean,
100%. There was a music video in addition to the Monday Night Football thing. There was a music video with Kiss in the Domino Revenge era with the leather and Kulik. And
there was?
Yeah, for sure. It's like a live performance video that they went in the studio and made the cut of, and then lived it for the video. And I think Eric is not on the drums either. I think it's Singer. So like it did have a new life. It was re-released as
somehow they're like they look back like, man, we let this great song go to waste. We should have done more with it. And
completely agree.
Killer
Completely agree.
Killer. One of the best Kiss songs.
I'm sorry. Let us move on to a song that should have been great, but it's not. I Still Love You. Eric Carr on the bass. Too long, no resolution. Thoughts?
You know, I thought I remembered really liking this song because I think this was on a Live 3 also, which is I think is
Unplugged. The Unplugged version is the greatest moment in the history of Paul Stanley as a vocalist. He wails the holy living shit out of that song. However, I believe that's why also took off a verse.
It could be that's why I remember thinking this was a good song, but then I re-listened to it on the Creatures and I gave it a 5 because I'm like, this isn't that great of a song.
The electric versions are dull, period. The version on Alive 3 is shorter, full stop. You know, you and I are of the same age where Unplugged really mattered to us. That was when Kiss returns to form. We're old enough to buy records. We're old enough to go to shows. And Danny and I actually went to a bunch of shows, not together, but at the same time.
But we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
And we keep discovering that.
Which is hysterical to me. And this song, the song is there, but they haven't whittled away enough chaff at this point.
Danny, did you get enough of your say in before Nick interrupted you twice to get his point out after he already had his say? Because he's not a good friend, whatever he says to you. Did you get to say enough about this song?
I'm good. I'm at peace. There you go.
All right. Just checking on your feelings because that matters to me. Unlike Nick, who doesn't care about your feelings at all. Or mine, or this show. It's fine. I think this is a fucking amazing song. I don't care how long it is. This is there since I've been loving you. Not quite as good. I think this song's awesome. I think Paul is incredible on this. Any version. I'm going to make a very bold statement in a few minutes, but I'm going to say that this song is, I don't give numbers to the single songs, but like this song's incredible. And I only love it more because of the Unplugged. And I've willingly never listened to a Live 3 on purpose. So that's my time. I yield my time.
I am of the generation that heard it on Unplugged first. And that's
I did too. I don't know. Like I said, I was late to this album for whatever reason.
My problem with music is I always go live record first. And I prefer the live sound, I prefer the live feel, especially Unplugged. Unplugged was genuinely live as near as I can tell. Though they did, if they didn't like it, they stopped it and did it again. But it was still a live recording. Unlike Alive 3, which that's an album that happened. Kind of like Alive 2. It's an album. I mean, none of their Alives are live.
Oh, so I love Alive 2.
We're not doing that today.
I know.
Streets are gonna flow with the blood of the unbelievers, Nick. Alive 2 rules.
Am I the unbeliever?
You are the unbeliever. You're gonna have forced attrition. You're gonna swear your fealty.
We're moving to Killer now. That song is terrible. Done.
I kind of liked it. I gave it an 8. I like the guitar riff on it. So
Kind of like
you
an
know,
8
it's weird.
are not the same thing.
I remember listening to this and thinking about it as an 8, and then towards the end, I'm like, have I evaluated this too high? Maybe the song went on too long. I don't know. Maybe it was too much the same throughout the whole thing. Maybe it needed a change at the end, but that's what I put down. So I can't back it up though.
You know what? You do you. That's Keefy.
I don't think it's horrible. I think it's the weakest song on side 2, on an excellent side 2. By the way, I think it's solid. It's not terrible. I would say this: the bad songs on this record are surely better than everything on the other 2 records except Shandy, like without a doubt. And maybe the opening track on the last one on Unmasked. But anyway, yeah, it's not it's not the worst. It's solid.
Can I point out that we have not discussed a single guitar solo? Around this time, well, during the tour, they started talking up how great, or before the tour started, how much Ace had practiced and how much better he had gotten. And it's really not. It's not. There's not.
I don't think he's on here. He didn't play at all on this record. It's
right,
all
but that's
Vinny other people.
Vinny is half, and then Bob Kulick's on a track, and
it's other guys.
Robin Ford's on a track.
The Mr. guy for some reason who they liked but didn't look right in the costumes.
Right.
And then Vinny was such a last minute choice to permanently be in the band that literally Paul spent 10 minutes on the Ankh and the whatever, which I don't hate. I never hated it. It's certainly nicer than the Fox. Nothing. Sorry. Rest in peace, Eric. But
whoa,
the Fox is.
No,
it's a step down. He for as talented as Paul is proven to be.
I love Vinny's playing on this album. I like Vinny Vincent on this and Lick It Up. I know that Nick didn't like it, but I didn't even mind the Vinny Vincent Invasion stuff. I kind of like that shreddy stuff like that. But man, if you listen to Vinny Vincent play now, he might be worse than me. And that should not ever happen. Like, I've never seen anybody fall like he has fallen, where he just can't play anything anymore. But I don't know. But at one time he was really good. So, and a good songwriter too.
Let's I don't remember where I was going. So
I just want to interject and say, how did Kiss fans listen to Creatures of the Night and see Ace's face and not know it wasn't him playing? Because it definitely doesn't sound like his
sounds
style.
Nothing like Ace.
Like not his writing and not his playing in any way, shape, or form. I understand why Kiss did it, but like, fans, be less dumb. I don't know what else to say. 82.
Yeah, how
less,
could you have not
40
known?
years ago?
Ace is so distinctive of a guitar style.
That's because he doesn't know how to play. I'm not being mean.
I mean, there's no way Ace is gonna.
It's like Miles Davis. Miles Davis had his cheeks puffed out. You're not supposed to do that.
Dizzy Gillespie, by the way.
I'm sorry.
Don't insult Miles Davis. Nothing that I don't love. Dizzy, I love Dizzy Gillespie is also a genius. What are you talking about?
What?
Anyway,
I didn't know. I didn't know.
What else you got?
Freddie King's from St. Louis. Anyway, we're gonna finish this off. Not Freddie King. I'm sorry. Goddamn Albert King. We're gonna finish this off with War Machine, which you better watch out because they didn't finish writing this song.
I like this song.
It's not a bad song, but they could have finished it. It went from a mediocre song. It could have gone from mediocre to amazing had someone finished it.
I feel like it's almost like a Black Sabbath-y style riff and a Kiss song. I don't know. I love the guitar riff. I think it's a great song.
It's an 18-year-old trying to do Black Sabbath.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
I'm sorry.
They still play it live. So they've been playing it on the Never Ending End of the Road tour. It's kind of one of the highlights of the sets. It's fun that they're doing it. So
I believe that is where Gene now breathes fire because they don't play Firehouse anymore.
It's either that or God of Thunder. I guess
God of Thunder is the
you're
blood,
right.
the bass
Blood. You're right. Yeah, I think you're probably right. It is on this song, but I gave it a 9. Maybe that's a little too high. I don't know, but I think it's a good song.
It really is a good song. It just It's like
it feels like a Tony Iommi riff to me, though. I don't know. It just sounds like something that he would.
it feels like me trying to write a Tony Iommi riff.
I was gonna say that it really reminds me of Ozzy. It actually sounds like a Randy Rhoads slower song because that tone, that riff tone, sounds a lot like Randy. And again, Ozzy's solo is huge at this point. 2 albums in. Black Sabbath with
you know what?
Dio.
I'll acquiesce, and it's not terribly dissimilar to Mr. Crowley.
It is, and this has very similar. It had a little more sense, and I'm gonna say it's a badass song. I hear you about being a little half baked, but honestly, the riff carries it, and the fact like it got another new life. Beavis and Butthead love War Machine. There's a whole Beavis and Butthead episode where like the two of them, they play the entire song, not like 2 minutes of it, the whole song, and they're just literally like da 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 the whole time. So like, you know what? That had to help. And I think I'm going to throw out my controversial point right now, which is I think this is the best side of a Kiss record since the mid-70s. Literally 4 of these songs are fucking awesome. And
it's
whatever, the turds are the
wrong.
turds.
If this,
the timing
if this
was way
same
wrong.
album, if this same album comes out in 77 or whatever, it's considered an all-time classic probably. But the timing was wrong. The rules had moved on from Kiss, and there was no bringing them back at this point. So,
yeah, I mean, at this point in time, Kiss is hokey. Kiss is ancient. You know, retro wasn't a thing in 1982, and the makeup, the costumes in 82, they just looked like the glam metal dudes did in 1993. And there's no great songs.
It felt really artificial when Kiss was doing it too. Like
Correct.
when Poison was doing it, it felt authentic for whatever that
when
means.
Poison was doing it in 92, they had gotten rid of each successive Poison record, they were less glammy, less Sunset Strip, and more, as Joe Elliott put it, moving out of a scene and into the mainstream. But Kiss did not do that. They just kept doing the exact same thing, and they just got more and more ridiculous. And in 1982, you have the people listening to heavy rock are listening to AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Dio, Black Sabbath with Dio, Rainbow. None of them look ridiculous like Kiss did. And when you get to 79 and 80, I think you've crossed the Rubicon there where you can't come back from it.
Dio looked pretty ridiculous in the blouses, but he is a great singer.
Or he's the 165th best singer according to Rolling Stone this week.
Yeah, oh my God, I didn't even want to go there. I mean, at least he made the list. They didn't put a bunch of people on that list.
Right, but I feel like sometimes they intentionally create those lists to be wrong, just to get people arguing about it.
Did you see how many I didn't think Celine Dion fans had Twitter, but apparently Celine Dion is trending on Twitter because people are mad about her absence from the list entirely.
Not being on there. When they like Bob Dylan's like number 9 and Dio's 165. Get out.
Singer?
Yes.
Straight up singers. All-time singers across every genre. Which again, Rolling Stone, it's like they didn't do it. They didn't parse it. Singers.
Bob right. They had Ozzy. They had Ozzy ahead of Dio too.
I think Ozzy gets on because of influence. I'm not saying he's the greatest, but I'm saying his influence as a singer.
I love Ozzy.
Yeah, he's the right singer for Black Sabbath in the 70s. And his solo stuff is very tuneful and created a template where metal, especially a more aggressive metal, could also still be melodic. You would not have power metal if you did not have Iron Maiden and Ozzy solo. You wouldn't have it. So you have to give credit where credit is due.
Right. Yeah.
No, is he a technically great singer? 100% no.
Not compared to Dio, right? So but I feel like some of the things on there were so crazy that it had to be intentional. So, but hey, they got us talking about it.
Check out our terrible list,
right,
gentlemen?
I feel like we're pretty similar on most of the songs, except for "Is That You?" And so I regret that was the very first one we talked about. But I kind of felt like that might be the case. So,
all right, let us quickly do Unmasked A to F.
I give it a C.
F minus. Keefy.
F.
All right. Elder.
D minus.
Keefy.
D.
A plus. Creatures of the Night. Not because it's good, but because it just ticks my boxes. It's bad. No, it's bad. I know it's bad. It's not even as good as a shitty King Diamond concept record. It's not even as good as Voodoo, but it makes me happy.
For creatures, I would go.
Creatures.
I would go with an A minus, only because there's no nostalgia factor to make it an A plus.
Fair enough. Keefy.
I also was off the Kiss train at this time, and now in retrospect, I love this record. B.
All right, I'm gonna give it a B minus. I think it is a bit overrated because of tracking. You look at the records preceding it, fuck terrible. You look at the records succeeding it, fuck terrible, and you've got this amazing like oasis of goodness comparatively, kind of like a Revenge. Revenge fuck terrible preceding it, and then we get Revenge. Revenge seems way better than it actually is. But I will give it a B minus. Good record, which is their best. And I know nobody agrees with me on Elder, so I'm going to throw that out. I'm going to do the Russian Federation grading the Russian figure skater, toss it out. This is their best. Creatures of the Night is their best record since 1974. Which is unfortunate.
I somewhat agree. I won't quite agree, but I somewhat agree. But it is. I will say this now in retrospect, that record for me leapfrogs all these other shit records and is right in the mix with Revenge and the big original 6 that I do love.
Oh, I love Revenge. Revenge is an A.
We should do it. We should do a Revenge chaser someday. We'll bring Danny back for something not Kiss related. But
there's gonna be a lot of 10s on that one for me.
Yeah, let's end the podcast on a positive note. I want to get some 2023 predictions from Danny, and then if Nick wants to weigh in, cool.
Right.
Kiss predictions, Danny. What do you is the end of the road tour ending this year or not?
Nobody ever ends anymore, and so I'm going to say no, it is not. I don't know at some point they'll probably have 4 replacement guys, and they're going to milk 4 replacement guys as long as that is viable, maybe at a theater in Las Vegas. So I'm going to say no, it will not end this year. So I know they're doing the UK tour, and then I'm not sure what they got going on after the UK, but I say no. Does not end this year.
Nicholas, last Kiss show ever in 23 or not?
No.
This Kiss now.
No. They've already added 100 shows to what they have already done, which probably won't start till July or August. Which puts
they have a few months off, and then I think they're doing some festival stuff, South America, UK, Europe festivals. They're headlining a lot of these festivals as like the third headliner or whatever. I think the US run.
I think they're so driven to make money at this point that they're going to make money that they'll never enjoy. I don't think this Kiss stops until someone dies. And that is
hard disagree.
And the thing about
Paul
that is
can't sustain the touring. He
can because
honestly they lose money when they miss a show. Like they lose a lot of money.
Now.
But he can't even do enough to lip sync along. So like he's suffering. So I really think he's the person pushing for the end. And I'm gonna make a bold prediction and say the final Kiss show of this lineup of Kiss will perform on New Year's Eve 2023 at Madison Square Garden in New York. It will be the last Kiss show ever for a while. The Kiss will go dark for a little while like a Broadway show. And then just like Danny said, they're gonna pop up somewhere at the Rio or some horrible middle-end hotel in Vegas.
Many times the last show is at Shea.
That Garden, not Shea.
They said Shea Stadium.
Not on New Year's Eve.
Well, no, definitely
not outdoors
Eve, no.
in New York City. No. And Fair enough. The Garden is the place that was the first place they felt they made it.
I'd love them to see them do a free show in Central Park.
Of course.
What are they, Simon and Garfunkel?
Yeah, just so that they can draw some humongous
they will
crowd 'cause
survive.
it's free. And
It would be sick. They won't ever do it free, never, unless they
although,
got
if, man, if they,
Hell
they did a
for it.
free show and then sold final show T-shirts at $50 a piece to everybody that walked into Central Park, they'd get their money
Wait,
back.
last
So-
show, $50?
Yeah.
Hell no.
Had that free
125.
Ozfest workout in 2008 with Metallica. Not well, right? Best
Yeah,
Buy is
I
going to
don't remember.
sponsor it.
All right,
Um,
gentlemen.
anything
we're
else, guys?
ramblers.
Well, we need to fill out the full 2 hours, so go ahead.
What, 2 hours? What?
Yeah, look at the time.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Danny, take us out.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for having me. I enjoy listening to your show. You guys are super knowledgeable about music. I don't always agree with your conclusions, but it wouldn't be very fun if I did. Sometimes I like stuff you guys don't like, and sometimes you guys like stuff I do, but I said that wrong, but you know what I'm saying. But I do really enjoy the show, and it was a lot of fun to be on it today. It was quite an honor for me, and I enjoyed talking about these albums with two guys that are highly qualified to talk about these albums. So, and I'm gonna get in the car, head to band practice, and crank out some "Is That You?" and all will be well with the world.
I'm going to the hospital because I think I got damaged a rib laughing so hard on mute. Thank you
Jesus
both.
Christ.
Thanks.
I have a lot of, I think my blood sugar just dropped.
Possibly. Danny, thanks for being back. We'll have you back again, sir. And
I appreciate that, man.
Nicholas, I mean, I'm not counting the chaser, but I think I did the one before. So is it your turn to take us home, sir?
I will take us home because Danny did not. I requested it, but he didn't.
Oh, okay.
I don't expect
however,
the guest to know the outro.
Mute
Oh,
Danny.
I do
him,
know
mute Danny,
I do know
mute
the
Danny.
outro.
Danny is one of my absolute favorite people in this world, legitimately so. He has been to both of my houses, one of the very few people to have done that. Danny, thank you very much for joining us. I greatly appreciate it. Keefy, thank you for allowing me to indulge having one of my friends, one of my close, genuine friends on the podcast multiple times. Danny plays a great show. However, like the Glacially Musical Podcast, he's never played Peoria.
No, not yet.